Friends, this is Shivakkumar again. So, in the earlier videos, I have shared Agile project management, Agile concepts, right? So, what is Agile, why we need Agile, and importance of Agile, different Agile values, that is 4 values, Agile Manifesto principle, there are 12 principles, and then benefits of Agile, implementing Agile in the project. So, different Agile methodologies. So, in this, then actually in the second video, I have shared about actually this Scrum concepts, Agile Scrum concepts. So, Agile pillars, Agile team or Scrum team, or Scrum pillars, not Agile, Scrum pillars, and Scrum team, Scrum events, Scrum artifacts. So, what is the backlog, sprint backlog, product backlog, all these things we discussed. And in third part, as a part of continuation, in the third video also, have given actually different Scrum concepts, right? Actually, so how the say for example, actually the Agile concepts are structured. So the Agile values or Scrum values. Then the different type of Scrum events, how they are sequenced, how much time it will take for executing the Scrum concepts in a project, right? These are the 3 videos we have done, and as a part of the 4th video, Agile series, we have Agile planning. So we are going to discuss about Agile planning and difference between Agile planning and traditional planning. Then actually requirements gathering, how to gather the requirements, how to prioritize the particular requirements or story maps or whatever it may be. Then actually estimation, and in estimation, in the sales, relative sizing, story points, wideband Delphi, planning poker, that is Agile game for estimation, affinity estimating, that is Agile game for estimation, story point estimation guidelines, ideal time and real time estimations, right? So we are going to discuss about. So we are mainly comparing this Agile planning and traditional planning using minimum viable product MVP and minimum marketable product MMP and minimally marketable futures MMF, right? So below the topic actually the requirements gathering, we are going to talk about user stories, requirement hierarchy, remember the future, that is Agile games for requirement elucidation, and speedboat, sailboat, Agile game for risk identification, right? So remember the future is for Agile game for requirement elucidation, speedboat and sailboat, Agile game for risk identification, okay? And while discussing about the topic prioritization, so we are going to discuss about customer value prioritization, so story maps mapping. So these are the important points to be discussed in this chapter. So the chapter of Agile planning is very important, right? So the team has to decide which features to be included in the project, right? That is important. So important learnings in this video are understanding of MAP and MMP for a product, requirements gathering techniques, requirement prioritization techniques, technique to estimate, that is doing the do sizing of requirements, right? So as we discussed, planning in Agile is not done at all once in the beginning. Instead, it is done several times throughout the life cycle. There is a major difference from waterfall where planning is done at the initial phase. This ensures that we can be more responsive to changes. So Agile is always dynamic in nature, right? So what is the main difference between Agile planning and traditional planning, right? That is the main matter of question. If you take traditional plans, we created upfront at the start. So whereas in Agile plans, only high-level plan created upfront with the detailed planning. So only for the user stories in the next release of our iteration. So that is the main biggest difference. Traditional plans you are created upfront at the start. In Agile plans, we are creating only high-level plans created upfront and with detailed planning only for the user stories in the next release of iteration or next release or iteration. So second thing, replanning is lesser in case of a traditional waterfall methodology only when changes happen, right? Then only we are going for replanning. If changes happen, then it will go for replanning. Whereas in Agile planning, we have replanning is the norm as we embrace changes. So in Agile, we normally accept changes. So replanning is unavoidable. Most requirements are known upfront, right, in traditional plans, and whereas in Agile plans, true requirements are uncovered as we proceed. And in case of traditional plans, planning is mostly at the beginning of the life cycle, whereas in Agile plans, planning is in lumps throughout the life cycles, right? And in traditional plan, mid-course adjustments are few, whereas in Agile plans, mid-course adjustments are a norm. The traditional plans are created upfront at the start of the life cycle during the planning stage. Agile plans are created only at a high level upfront with a detailed planning only for the user stories in the next release or iteration. So replanning in the traditional plan is lesser and happens only when changes happen. So therefore replanning is norm in Agile plans as we embrace changes in Agile. We always expect changes in the Agile. In the traditional approach, most requirements are known upfront, whereas on Agile, true requirements emerges as we proceed with the work. Hence, the level of planning also differs accordingly. Okay. Traditional plans are mostly prepared at the beginning, whereas Agile plans are prepared in lumps throughout. This means that we do some high-level planning at the beginning, and then we do detailed planning just before the work is taken up in the iteration. As changes are commonplace on Agile, we replan when changes come. In reality, planning in Agile might actually be more than in the traditional approach, as we do it in parts at the several times and modify the plan with the changes. So next come finally the traditional plans have few mid-course adjustments as compared to the Agile plans. So this is because the changes are anticipated more often on Agile. So important thing, traditional plans are mostly prepared at the beginning, whereas Agile plans are prepared in lumps throughout the project phase. This means that we do some high-level planning at the beginning, and then we do detailed planning just before the work is taken up in an iteration in case of Agile. As changes are commonplace on Agile, we replan when changes come. In reality, planning in Agile might actually be more than in the traditional approach, as we do in parts at several times and modify the plan with the changes. Finally, the traditional plan have few mid-course adjustments as compared to the Agile plans. This is because changes are anticipated more often on Agile. Now comes the minimum viable product, MVP. So MEP includes those sets of features in the product that help get yearly customer feedback, right? Minimum viable product. So with minimum requirements, we can execute the projects, right, in the first iteration. MEP includes those set of features in the product that help get yearly customers feedback. All the product features are not needed to get such a feedback. Hence, minimum viable product MEP is only subset of the total product features that are needed for selling the product. Final product release will have greater number of features than MEP. That is understood. So, whatever minimum requirement to complete or execute a particular customer's satisfaction, we are planning using the minimum viable product methodology. Okay. So, not a complete final product release. So, it's an initial thing. Then in second release or second iteration, we are planning for the successive improvements in the project. This is what actually the Agile planning will work. MVP is similar to a mock-up or a proof of concept, as the purpose is to get customer feedback. With minimal investment, it allows us to check our hypothesis for the product. Similarly, it also helps in validating any critical assumptions taken for the particular product. This ensures that final releasable or marketable product has all the required features as expected by the customer. A good example of a minimum viable product is what the Airbase or something did, right? They had to prove their hypothesis that people are willing to pay for staying in other people's house. So they rolled out a basic website for people with at least 3 airbags and breakfast to list, and for others to rent these accommodations. This was the minimum viable product. This helped them confirm their belief. I think you are getting right. Say for example, example of MPV, right? Say for example, Airbase, some company, they have to prove their hypothesis that people are willing to pay for staying in their people's house. So they rolled out a basic website for people with at least 3 airbags and breakfast to list, and for others to rent this. This was their MAP. So minimum viable product. This helped them to confirm their belief. So the people will get satisfaction. Okay, they are giving actually the minimum requirement. That will help them to focus on actually the main requirement and understand what else the customer needed to build the full solution. So first they created the first iteration or a first minimum requirement, and from the feedback of the customers, then actually they can understand what customers needed to build the full solution, what is required. So everything they understand from the first iteration execution, and it is commented by the business customers. Minimally marketable product MMP and minimally marketable features MMF. What is minimally marketable product is a list of those features that form the core functionality of the product. These are the mandatory features that are needed to take the product to the market. For example, American bank machine, ATM machine, right? The ability to withdraw the money from it is MMP, which is minimum marketable product. The ability to allow customized shortcuts to customers to perform the transactions faster is not an MMP. This is because the product can still be released without the customization feature, which can be added later in the future release. So this is called minimum marketable product. We have minimum viable product, minimum marketable product, or minimum marketable features. These are the difference. So the minimum viable product is a kind of iteration kind of thing. So it is, we can say it is a validate and learn. And minimum marketable product is the first release or end of the first release, that is called launch. We need to know the difference. A minimum viable product is not yet ready for selling or for product release. So in minimum viable product, what you are doing, you are considering the minimum requirements in the first release, not considering the entire thing. And minimum marketable product is the one you are releasing the whatever the requirement you planned in MMP and executing and completing the minimum requirement for the customer to get a satisfaction survey on the minimum marketable product or minimum marketable features, and then you are executing in the coming future on the full release. And MMP is not yet ready for selling or for product release into the market. Only after several minimum viable products are developed, we reach that stage where we have a saleable product for the release. This then become a minimally marketable product, MMP, or minimally marketable feature. So kind of actually beta version. Say for example, if Google is releasing some feature, it will allow some minimum users to run or test the particular features, new features. That is called beta testing, beta version, right? And once that load and volume, everything, the maximum number of users using the peak time. So at that time, actually the system should not, or the connection should not fail. So after calculating all these things, they will, based on the learnings and the analysis, they will release the final product to all the customers. This is a final version. So that is the plan. So for Google, for making this minimal plan, that is called minimum viability plan, and say for example, minimum marketable product, after coding, they need to release the beta version to the customer to get a survey, and after doing that, actually they will get a feedback, and from the feedback they can able to develop the final product and release it to customer. It's the final release. So high priority features, that is detailed planning, right, will be placed in the first in the backlog, product backlog, top in product backlog. These are minimum value product, and then minimum marketable product also come in the second stage. And low priority features, that is undetailed planning, will be optional features and will be placed in the lower stack of the product backlog. If you look at the product backlog that consists of all the products requirements, then some of them could make up a MAP, and when we take up a few more, it could make up MMP. The rest of the requirements are optional, out of which once adding more value would eventually be delivered. Several of optional features might be dropped altogether as per 80-20 rules. That is 20% of the features provide 80% of value in the product. So that is called 80-20 rule that we already discussed in the first part of the video, right? So that is about actually the comparison between the traditional plan and the agile planning methodology. I hope actually with this topic I try to stop this topic of this video with here, and then actually we are planning to discuss on requirement gathering in the next video. Thanks for watching my videos. This is Shivakkumar. Friends, this is Shivakkumar again. So in the earlier videos, so I have shared Agile project